Welcome to Secrets from a Billionaire's Matchmaker with Matchmaker Gina Hendrix.
Hey, you guys, welcome to another edition of Secrets from the Billionaire's Matchmaker. I am so glad you're here. Now you're going to hear things that might sound like they've been edited. You might be like, hey, what? That sounds like it skipped a little, or it just doesn't quite make sense. Sometimes that happens around here because what you're listening to, are very, very special, fly on the wall coaching sessions that I've had with women over 4 years. And we've taken some of the best questions that I've gotten over this time, and then we've edited parts just to make them more seamless and also protect people's privacy. Okay. That's what you do in the matchmaking and coaching world, is you write a fine line protecting everyone's privacy while still giving you the goods, right? So welcome, welcome. Let's get into it. If you ever want to be on one of the lives and join me, you can always email us to get on the list, teamgina@ginahendrix.com, and of course, following me on the socials at Matchmaker Gina Hendrix. All right, let's do this, shall we? Dating is tough for everybody. And I'm helping you ramp up everything you're doing for dating because I'm obsessed with it. And yes, you would think I just want to talk about matchmaking, but matchmaking is, I only work with a limited number of clients. And I think if a matchmaker's really going to be intentional and focus on the quality of her clients, any matchmaker should work with only a small pool of people. But that means the other side of the coin is, how are you going to meet somebody outside of me? Well, the dating apps is actually how I got started. I mean, I was obsessed with the dating apps and I wanted to start my own dating app. This was in the early 2000s. And I didn't because procrastination and life. And then finally a friend said, Gina, you've always been a great connector of people. Why don't you think about being a traditional matchmaker? And I was like, okay, maybe. And I did it. I literally took a leap of faith, quit my styling. I'd been a top celebrity stylist for 10 years. I literally sold all my wardrobe stock. I turned down all the wardrobe gigs. I literally burned that bridge behind me so there wasn't another option. And I went all in with the matchmaking. And I've hosted 2 radio shows, written several books at this point. And I just love to talk about love and dating. But because you guys need resources, it all routes back to the dating apps. Okay. Unfortunately for you guys, there's no getting around it. But fortunately, you have me. So I know everything there is to know because I'm obsessed still with it, and how everybody can increase their odds, increase their chances. Okay. Hey there. I already know you have a great question for me.
Yes, just a quick, actually 2 questions. One was when you mentioned, when you part with somebody and you feel like it's not a good fit and you kind of let them know, hey, I don't think that there's a connection. Like you say, I usually say, well, I just don't feel it's a good fit. And sometimes in the past, in my past experience, they would say, well, can you tell me why, and do you do it like in a text? If it's a few dates, like if it's really a few dates, I may consider, depending on the context, of like responding in a text, because I feel like it's less, sort of direct and less hurtful, if you will.
Yeah.
But sometimes, when you're like, if you had a conversations with the person, like, and sometimes they ask you like, oh, can you tell me why? Like,
I mean, listen,
how do you?
I can understand that they'd be maybe curious to know more, but you don't owe them anymore. And you're really setting yourself up potentially to fall into a trap. And, and I feel like it's also manipulating you a little bit because you've already done your part. You told them, this wasn't a fit. That should be good enough. They should respect that. If I were you, I would just stick to, well, I'm sure you've felt that way about people in the past, because I know they have. I'm sure you felt that way about people in the past. It's just something where you just don't feel it's the right connection. And I do wish you the best. And say, I do wish you the best. That is it. If they come back with more shit, you just block them.
Got it.
You don't owe them anymore. I mean, years ago, my God, you guys, how do I get myself into this stuff? But this was years and years and years ago. Maybe even, let me think about this. Maybe 10 years ago, maybe more, 12. Anyway, there's this man, and I met him at like different events. He came to a lot of my singles events when I was first starting my matchmaking and da-da-da. And he asked me out. And I thought, I don't know that I'm that interested in this guy, but I should practice what I preach. So I did. I went out with him. Keep in mind, I didn't want to go out with him. Keep in mind, he picked the restaurant. I didn't even pick. He picked an Italian restaurant. Okay, fine, all good. So we go on the date, and he literally was like repeating everything back to me, like agreeing with everything I said. Like he had no opinions. I was just like, kill me now. Okay. Anyway, and it was not a match. And so afterwards, I think I sent him the obligatory, thanks. I had a really good time. I don't feel like this is the right match. And he said, can you please tell me more? Okay. So me being a matchmaker, I thought, well, he's asking me because I'm a matchmaker for help. And I actually kind of said what I just told you guys. Like, you repeated everything. You didn't really have opinions of your own. Da, 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 da. Oh my Lord. He sent me what looked like the Unabomber manifesto. And telling me about what was wrong with me, and ripping me to shreds, and going on and on and on and on. It was so frightening. I sent it to my guy friend, and he was like, "Oh my God." And then he asked for his money back of my dinner. And then he had a woman call me about a week later saying, you were really just using him for a meal. Can you please give him his money? Oh my God. So do you see how I have PTSD by that? So if they ask you, it is none of their business. Don't open the rabbit hole. You just didn't get the right vibe. End of story. There you go. Okay.
Thank you so much. It's a funny story, but a great lesson.
My Lord, yes. So I
years
never fell into that trap again. You're up to bat, girl.
Hi.
Hi.
And I said, there's a guy who's just slow on the burn, as far as I know he's been quite busy with, we've been 3 dates, but I didn't want to take a date from him at the last minute. Like, it was like, oh, Saturday, he finally is texting me. Walter's he's a little bit slow. But he's following the playbook in a way,
Yeah.
He's like, all right, I'll text you when I'm heading back on Sunday. And so Sunday turned into, it was late, and all he wanted to do was just jump in his hot tub because he's sold his big house, which was very nice. And he's going to be going through 1 month of getting out of his big house. And he's like, oh, I thought maybe we could use the hot tub. I'm really tired. We can have martinis. And I was just like, oh, I said, it's a little early in our relationship to be like wet, hot, and in a hot tub.
And in a hot tub. Yeah.
So he's like, nothing's going to happen. And I'm like, I believe him. I
Right.
do. He hasn't been inappropriate. But I said, he's like, well, maybe before the month's up, we can get together in the hot tub still, and I'm like, I just declined. I said, so I don't know, like doing something like that as a fourth date or whatever. I'm like, I wasn't
know.
sure.
It's tough. I think some women would do it and be comfortable with it. I think for me, and I guess if we're all going to be honest, if we're all going to be totally honest, it probably depends on how attracted and crazy we are about the guy. You know what I mean? Like if it was like George Clooney or something, we'd be like, okay, let's get knocked up with my titties.
Yeah.
But
I would have gone. I would have, but I was just trying to be a little bit more.
No, and I agree. I do think so. I see everything. I don't see everything. I don't see it anything from one perspective. I see it from a lot of different perspectives. And I absolutely think that you getting in the hot tub. Well, and that's my point. If it was like somebody you were really, really into and you wouldn't mind maybe making out a little more or whatever.
Oh, sure.
But I do think this is that context of the hot tub martinis, bikinis, and all that.
Yes,
is going to set you up
to
be put in a position that might be awkward.
Yes, I thought so. And I felt like teasing him later going, I was more concerned about his, safety, because I go, he is an attractive guy. So
I see.
He's got a good body and everything. I'm like, I could easily slip into that mode. And I go, I didn't trust myself, so.
Oh my.
But I said, no, but we really haven't gotten to know each other too well. So I said, that's later. But I just figured, I go, what do you do when it's like, I was like, all right, I'd rather do a date, but I wasn't too sure if I was, cutting him off,
No, I think you offered an alternative,
Yes, I did.
That's fine.
And then he did get home and he was just too tired to do anything, and I can understand that.
Next question. Who's got the next question for me? All right, you had a really good question.
What do you think is like appropriate first date conversation? Can it ever go too deep or should it be relatively surface level or what are your thoughts on that?
I love that question. Thank you. So I think, and so funny. I was actually having this discussion with somebody last night about that. I think on the one hand, you never want to make it like it's a Dateline interview, right? Like, and you've got the mic right in front of their face or you've got the spotlight on them and you must tell me the truth, you don't want to make it like that. But at the same time, I do think there's something to be said rather than ask frivolous things. You can certainly position things of more seriousness in depth and throw that in for sure. Let me see. I was just working on some questions this morning. I was like Googling and looking up different things. So here's some good questions I thought was good. What's a decision you've made that completely changed the direction of your life? I thought that was great. What's the best advice you've ever received about success or happiness? If you could spend a year mastering something completely new, what would it be and why? Let's see, what else did I like here? What's something you've built, whether in your career, relationships, or personal life that you're really proud of? I think you can spend a little time, and I'm going to try to actually put together a list as well of questions that are more of depth so that it makes them go wow and be a little more introspective while at the same time also kind of being a little fun and intriguing rather than just the basic, because again, everything I'm teaching you guys here is all about how to not be basic. Basically, you don't want basic men. So if you don't want to be basic men, you can't be basic women, right? Exceptional women, exceptional men. That's what we're going for. So I think thinking outside the box with these questions actually would be super helpful. Okay, now I'm going to dive in really deeply here. So listen up. If you're new to the dating apps, if you've never been on the dating apps, if you think you know what you're doing on the dating apps, be prepared to be surprised. I'm somewhat of a little expert on this subject. I've had my own dating app and I love it as a resource. But if you don't know what you're doing, it's not going to help you. So we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive, and my go-tos are Bumble and Hinge. I get that question quite a bit, but I look at it like you want to be at the party with the most people, right? Good and bad, always good and bad. It's a mix of the real world. But if you know what you're doing, that will change the game. So listen closely.
What I'm finding I'm challenged by with Hinge in general, they serve me up men, and all there is there's an X. Either I X them out or I have to comment on them to like somehow make a connection. Is anybody following what I'm saying? I'm just highly confused.
So, okay. So on Hinge, you see those little icons across the bottom, and then you see the heart specifically. I want you to look at the heart, and the heart gives you a number of like 5 notifications, 27, whatever it is. So then you tap on the heart, and now you see one guy clearly. Okay. If you try to see the guys below him, they're all blurred out. You can't see them.
Right.
So what Hinge does is, and they don't make it clear because they're tricking you to try to get you to pay, and it kind of sucks. But essentially, you have to make a decision to the guy who you could see clearly before the guy below him becomes unblurred. Okay, so there's that. So you see the first guy, and if the first guy just gave a like or a rose, in my opinion, that's not good enough. And so you would X him out. Okay. Now let's pretend the
Okay.
next guy below him has like actually made a comment. Oh, you seem so lovely. How did I get so lucky to connect with you? Whatever. And then you have a choice about this guy. You can see his full profile, but you can either X or you can click the chat thing. Okay. When you click the chat bubble, then it shows you another option that says match. You don't have to write anything at all. You just hit match. And now he gets it that now you've matched with him. So now he can then come back with more effort. You could just simply say, "Oh, thanks for the compliments, John. I'm glad we connected." And then boom, match with him. Do you see what I mean?
Got it. I don't think I realized that there's a match button because all I ever saw was you click on like one of their little things and it says send a compliment or send a comment and then send a like. And I'm like, what is this? Why do I got to send a comment every time? So
I was just on there this morning, and again, if a guy we only care about those who've actually cared enough to write something. So If you're interested, you click that chat bubble thing, and then it says, like match with them or whatever. You could at least acknowledge his words. I mean, that's appropriate, but you don't, thanks, John. Oh, thanks for the nice words. Nice to meet you. Boom. And that's it. And then now it's in play. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right. I'll keep playing with, but yes, I follow you. I don't know if I saw that match button thing. Okay. And then I think the only other one would be for Bumble, like, which I'm not on as much as I feel like I'm on Hinge anyway, but I am on there. So when I start doing all my things,
then we'll pay more attention to it.
But I think I was testing it, and then I was like, oh, you click, if somebody likes you, you click the check mark, and then it says you're matched. And then you wait to see if they extend the time, because you don't do anything. Okay.
Yes, on Bumble, yes, extend the time, or now they can ask you an actual question separate from extending the time. And I consider both of these things effort.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah. So Bumble interface is a little bit easier. I just have to click the check.
I agree.
And then,
Okay.
Bumble's
interface is easier for sure.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
100%. Sure. So, ladies, when it comes to what I like to call your marketing campaign for dating, which is, dressing to call in the men you want, I'm very picky on your behalf, right? Because I just don't want you guys to continue to show up with photos that call in the wrong men. And keep in mind, even when you level up your look and create the marketing campaign for dating, which is what I specialize in, even when you do that, sure, there's going to be those low-level losers that will show up and still try to take their shot. So what they're going to do, and this is how you're going to know, is these are the guys that are testing your boundaries, okay? So let's get into that now. It's a fine line between, I want you ladies to look sexy, sophisticated, and elevated, but never like thirst trapping. So if we're going to show legs, we don't want to show too much cleavage. In fact, I would prefer never to show too much, but you also don't want it all the way up to your neck either. A little chest is fine. And if they want to then read into it and they come with some inappropriate, rude, uncouth remarks, then goodbye to you, sir. Here is the door. Boom. And you kick them out. You know what I mean? Also, I find that when women tell me that like guys have been scammers or just, they just don't have the right intentions, a lot of times it's because women don't have their photos elevated to where it needs to be. And when you don't, then those guys that have bad intentions, let's say, they're going to be more attracted to the women who look like they don't have a clue in their pictures, just like women who are up to no good on the apps. They're going to come for those men who also don't look like they have a clue. And their agenda is money, opportunity. And they know that, oh, this person doesn't really know how to take good pictures. This person looks a little clueless about dating and how to level themselves up. And so they know if they come in and sprinkle a few compliments on, and women do it to men and men do it to women, that person is going to be receptive to the attention they're giving them. So just, once we level you up, then those guys are not going to be messing with you. If you look like, you're somebody who knows what's going on. And if they do show up and they're like trying to they're testing you when they do that stuff. They're absolutely testing you to see where are her boundaries. And if you don't have any boundaries and you play along, they're going to hit the gas and they're going to escalate with this stuff. You know what I mean? So always keep your boundaries intact and don't feel like you have to play along with it. Okay. There's going to be those men who are just testing your boundaries. That's what they're doing. And you might do nothing to provoke them, but they're testing you. They're testing the waters there. Next question. Who's got something for me?
I can't get a Google Voice number because of a work situation that overlaps with Google Voice. Yeah, because if you have one already, you can't get another one on the same phone number. And so,
well, but you could get it with a different email.
I've been around the barn about this. I'll try again, but
Really?
I have been in mortal battle with Google Voice trying to get a number, and I can't get a second one.
I will try that because I have one through my team, Gina, for like our business stuff. I wonder I should try it through Gina Hendrix and see. That's interesting. I'll see. But yes, go on with your situation.
To be able to get the, anyway, okay, so
Yeah.
she showed effort. It turned out to, because I didn't want to give a number, he set up a Google Meet, which I thought he was like reading the cues that I wasn't going to give him my number.
Yeah.
So he set up a Google Meet, which I thought was nice.
Yeah.
He's a nice looking man. He's 5'4", which is the same height as me,
Okay.
which isn't a deal breaker for me because I think he's nice looking.
Yeah.
And he said, are there some places you've never been you'd like to go? I threw out a few. I did not throw out expensive ones. So I said, I live in this green. There's a carousel I've always wanted to go to. And there was an exhibit that's a gallery you can just walk in. And he picked the carousel, which I thought was the romantic choice. We
You mean like
met.
the merry-go-round thing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
that's
like a
cool.
merry-go-round. But
Yeah.
it's a especially
Yes.
beautiful one in Lower Manhattan.
Yes.
So kind of a romantic choice, I thought.
Yeah.
And then we walked up to the Village and ate in a vegetarian restaurant. Turns out we're both vegetarian. I had a really nice time. The only, I would say, yeah, I've got my eye on whether his financial situation. He works in as a surgical tech. So in New York City in the nursing range, you can make good money, but I have
Yeah.
my eye on that. But the date was a little bit towards over disclosing for his part. The man was like, "How are you single? You really are amazing." Points for that because it wasn't like, he didn't feel like he was blowing smoke. He really felt sincere.
Right.
He was like, "I don't know how to ask you this exactly, but like, how are you still single?" And I was like, "Nice." Has been showing up like, "How's your day?" Asked to read a book to follow up on one of the things we were talking about. So I don't see any red flags here, except a little bit of like, a little more than his life story than maybe I think he was nervous.
Yeah,
Like I
that's
wouldn't just
that
typically
sounds
go
great.
that far into my life history in a first date.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, with a lot of shorter guys, they don't get up to bat that often.
Hmm.
And, and I'm lucky. I've never minded, like, I mean, I don't know if I've ever gone out, I don't know if I've gone out with a short guy in a while. Um, but I think I like shorter guys. I'd take a shorter guy that's more about my height than a super tall guy any day. But that's me, and I'm very unusual that way because my very first boyfriend was short. But that's good because a lot of these guys are really good guys. I think they work harder in the bedroom.
Interesting.
I think, yeah, I think they're really, so grateful that I
Mhm.
think, I think it's a better play, quite frankly.
Yeah. Oh, he wants to go slow. He's been intentionally single. He said celibate for 3 years and wants to go slow. So
And
I
did
don't
you
feel like
ask him
there's any.
why?
He said his life was a mess and he really wanted to work on himself. He went
Yeah.
into therapy. He stopped drinking, which I'm a non-drinker, so that's a fit for me.
Wow.
Yeah, like those are big boxes for me.
I forgot.
Man
Yeah.
who's done some work on himself. I want that. That's on top of my list. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
spent the last 3 years doing that. And honestly, it sounded like he wasn't just saying it because men will,
Great.
you
That's great.
know.
Okay, you're next. What you got for me?
Well, I was going through your material again, and I got, from what I got, it was actually a phone call. So I did my first phone call.
Great.
So I just wanted to clarify the first one is actual phone call, not a video call.
Correct. Phone call. Absolutely.
Okay, because that's a lot of effort to like get
I
all
know.
ready
Well, and
to do a video call.
here's the other thing I say. I mean, I think that if you're somebody that runs into, actually, that reminds me to tell somebody else this, that I think if you run into situations where you end up meeting these guys in person and you're like, oh, I didn't like them, then go to the video call. But I do think if there's no distance, like if they're in your town, the call went well, you guys should just meet and you're confident that he's going to look
Okay.
at his pictures. A date is preferable. But if you have any additional concerns or there's long distance, like where you're not going to meet with him for a while, then I would go to the video.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. And
And how
then
did the call go?
it actually went really well, which brings me to my second question. So he's not like physically like, I mean, he's not ugly, but he's not my type. But I was wanting to
The
be
guy from yesterday, right? Was it the guy from yesterday?
the blonde guy, tall blonde guy that
Yeah.
says so we had a really great conversation, but I can just tell like we're just not a match and is coming in hot. or however your terminology is.
They're coming in hot.
And he, even this morning, he sent me a follow-up text, and just is wanting to get to know me. But I just know, just in my knowingness, he's not the, how
that's all-
long do you carry on
You
for
don't.
training purposes?
You don't. And why do you think he's not for you?
When he was talking about he went to Emerald's restaurant in Las Vegas and he was treating himself, and I thought, okay, well, he's obviously really watching his money if he thinks, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then I've told you about the Breakers Hotel, which is a historic hotel that was bought by the Fairmont here.
Right.
And they renovated it, and I've never been to the Sky Room, and I've always wanted to go. And when I was talking to him about that, he's like, well, yeah, if you go, it's about, if you go with your girlfriend or me or your kids, it's about the company, not the place. And I'm thinking, okay, is this another, reading between the
Right.
lines because
Right.
it's the Fairmont and it's
Right.
expensive? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, I think so. I think what you tell him is you text him back and you say, hey, it was really great getting to know you. But I don't really feel like this is the connection I'm looking for. That's it.
Okay. Okay.
That's it. This is all about learning to not waste so much time. It's a fine line because I think some women kick men to the curb where I think, oh, well, let's explore this more. And then there's times where, I think you guys go all in on a guy where I'm like, oh, let's kick him to the curb. It's a fine line. I think when in doubt, before kicking him to the curb, unless it's just obvious. But if you're
Yeah.
sort of like, I don't know, do a call. And on the call is really where you're going to be making the decision.
The video call, you mean? Like,
No, just the actual phone call.
oh, okay.
On a phone call should be enough to tell you whether you're interested in this guy to want to move forward or it's done.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Sure, you're welcome. So now we're going to get into another important topic. What if your divorce isn't finalized? And what are the important things to put on your dating profile?
Do you have any advice if your current divorce is taking forever due to the amount of assets, if it's a complicated divorce, something like that?
I think there are those people who do not want to date somebody who's not legally divorced. And you never want to act like you are legally divorced if you're not, okay? But I think being transparent about the situation, I think if you're on the dating app, okay, here's what I would do. Because on the dating app, you can't have separated, right? At least maybe on some, but not really the ones I deal with very much. So I would then say, and we're going to fudge the truth a little bit, I would say divorced, okay? But then in your bio, just like when you ramp up your photos, in the bio, you want to put photos are new as of December 2023, January 2020. That's super important because if you look great in your photos, people are going to wonder if it's real or not. Same thing with like any important information. So if it's divorce not quite finalized, that's such a fine line. If you want to be hardcore and really filter people out so that you're not even talking to them or you're not wasting any time, then you can be hardcore and put some sort of line like divorce not finalized, but in the final processes or something. There's verbiage that you could put so that you're being honest, but you're also letting them know like we're in the final stages. And people will feel good about somebody being transparent like that. And again, you'll weed out those people who want no part of it. But I think it's good. I think you guys go onto the dating apps thinking that you have to attract everybody. And you get nervous to like say things in your bio that's going to turn anybody off. But that's the opposite of what you should be doing. You should be as specific as you can be in your bio because you don't need everybody coming at you. You just want those people coming at you that are going to resonate with who you are. Have great pictures and then be very specific in your bio because nobody's looking out for you on the dating apps except you. And there really are no proper filters for a lot of these things, except if you're going to write it and spell it out. I'm looking to get married. I want to start a family. My divorce isn't finalized, but it will be soon. Now, when it comes to health issues, I wouldn't put any of that in the bio. I wouldn't tell anybody that. I have seen people who have disabilities and they're in like a wheelchair or something, and they don't write it in the bio, but they do work it into their photos and in a very subtle way. It's not obvious and you kind of have to look hard. But, I think that is something that you definitely need to let somebody know about. If you have something obvious where when you meet them, you're going to know they have a health challenge, you're going to know that they're in a wheelchair. Yeah, you got to get that out of the way up front. But if it's something like you have Lyme's disease or Crohn's or something like that, that they're not going to know about, there's no reason to tell anybody that kind of stuff until you even know if you really like them or not. And that's going to be I don't know, 3 dates in at minimum. And I gave you a lot of extra info there, so okay. Okay, ladies, I know that a lot of you ladies struggle with some body image issues, whether it's photos for my database for matchmaking or whether it's on the dating app. So I want to give you some of my very best advice from not only being a former fashion stylist, but also seeing how men judge and look at profiles.
Hi, Gina. Any advice for plus size women?
I mean, I think first of all, you don't want to hide your body. I think you want to be comfortable in your own skin and you want to, because men know if you're doing all photos where it's just like this, they know that you're hiding something. And you don't want to do that because one, you're going to attract those guys that go, oh, something's wrong with her body or she doesn't feel good about herself. How about that? She doesn't feel good about herself. She thinks something's wrong with her body. And then you're going to attract those like guys that just want to use you and abuse you because they know they can. Okay. But then if you show your body, then you're just going to be attracting those guys that go, oh, she's curvy and gorgeous and I want to date her. So I think you need to be exactly who you are, but you need to feel good about it. And so you want to show your body, but you want to be dressed the right way. You don't want to be, I've seen people in sloppy t-shirts like they're going to shop at Walmart or blah, blah, blah. And that's for any size person. That's for any age person. But I think also as we get older, and I think the more we can step up our game and our style, it makes us more attractive, whatever size we are. So ladies, there's a lot of confusion out there and a lot of noise about how to discern between a high value guy and spotting a low value guy. And I think sometimes, again, this is where it can be blurry. The roads kind of meld together because some people rule people out too quickly. Some people let it go on for far too long. And it is a fine line. And I think just being a matchmaker, this is in my wheelhouse. So let me break it down for you. You had the perfect question for this. And this conversation is going to take us out.
I feel like there is just a lot of confusion about what is a high quality man going to look like when he shows up on the dating apps? Because some of the behavior that I'm seeing in the group chat that be like, oh no, you should give him a try. I look at that and think, I am a hard ass. I would not give that person a try.
Like, give
So
me an
I,
example give me a scenario
okay.
where somebody was confused and, oh, give them a chance.
Well, it'd be like where the guy starts off, but it might be like a man is saying, uh, hi there, beautiful. And then the woman will go back to pushing him to respond like, hey, I was hoping you would ask me something about myself. Like she'll say hi and thank you. And I was hoping you were going to ask me something about myself. And then he doesn't ask her anything about himself, but he tells her a little bit about himself. This is not exact. Please, this is not exact. I'm just making it up from
That is
memory.
nothing I would approve of. I would not, if a guy opens with hi beautiful, that's not effort. We're kicking him to the curb.
Okay, that is what I have consumed all of your material. I've read through things more than once.
Yep.
And I'm looking at some of this stuff and I'm thinking, I don't really know if
I mean,
I
think
wouldn't.
there's sometimes that there's a fine line. Like I'm trying to think of the example I just dealt with yesterday where somebody sent something. Oh, I know. A woman was talking to this guy and I think, oh, actually, I think it was the early stages. Hoping you asked me an interesting question out of the gate. And he opened with, I see you like to go to, restaurants or, something about food or whatever. And well, what are some of your favorite restaurants, And I guess in her stuff, she never mentioned she liked restaurants at all. And so, and saying, should I just unmatch with him because, he's saying I liked restaurants and I never said I liked restaurants and da da. I mean, so for me, here's how I feel about that. He got it wrong, yes. But is he trying? Yes. And maybe did he use ChatGPT to come up with a few good openers for women that probably works because we all eat food. So that is probably a high percentage chance that most women would that would pertain to their profile? Yeah. And is he trying to cheat a little bit? Yeah. But I don't find but at least he's trying. So I think that's kind of a fine line where you give him a pass, like to even come back with and say, oh, well, I don't think I mentioned any restaurants or food in my profile, did I? Where did you see that? And you can be a little playful with it. But I think a guy who just opens with hi, beautiful is absolutely not trying at all.
All right, you guys, this is going to wrap up the show for this week, but I hope you really enjoyed it. I learned something every time I do these shows. You guys open the secrets of my vault, and things I hadn't thought of in so long come pouring out. So always keep those great questions coming. Always keep your standards high. And when in doubt, always make sure that you're being safe and you're being smart when it comes to navigating these dating waters, because it is confusing out there. But I'm hoping your time with me gives you a little more clarity. Okay? Have a beautiful week. See you next time.
Want to keep up with more of Gina's advice? Follow her on TikTok and Instagram at Matchmaker Gina Hendrix, or visit her matchmaking website, ginahendrix.com.